Hello and welcome to the Proof of Claim podcast, where we take a deep dive into claims that are being made in the wider world, and we try to unpack whether or not the claims are actually legitimate or not. So today I'm your host, Todd Price. I'm joined with my co-host, Anil Bharrat, and we've got the gun-toting, bagpipe-tooting, little pocket knife-carrying Deggen, head of distributed applications, joining us today to show us his recent claim, or to substantiate his recent claim on X of this is electronic cash. So welcome, Deggen.
Thank you. What an intro. Yeah, I love that. Love that. Boot scooting as well.
Yeah, boot scooting. Are you into the line dancing, are you?
I love it. Absolutely. Yeah. I should have put this in the background somewhere, you know.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, that's what you're living in Texas. You've got a sort of a Scottish accent, but there's a Swiss background there or something as well, isn't there?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. And the Swiss Army knives in the Tesla, it's in the center console, just in case.
Man, you're a one of a kind.
I don't think so. You know, here, there's some yodelers in these parts as well, so it's not that rare. Because America really is a mix of, Anglos and Germans, at least the white people here are, so Celts and so on. So I kind of feel at home here like I haven't felt at home in either Switzerland or Scotland, because everyone in America is kind of a mixture of those kind of regions anyway. So yeah, it feels good here. Feel normal. They say keep Austin weird, so I feel like I'm part of that now.
Oh, I better come help. And so, Deggen, you are at the moment you're the head of distributed applications at the BSVA, but you've been in the game for a long time. You've worn a few different hats besides that 4-gallon one or whatever it is. So yeah, tell us a bit about how you've come to land where you are and what you're working on currently, and what you're excited about.
Gosh, I mean, it's all the same story. It's just been a long road towards getting really peer-to-peer direct instant payments implemented. And, I feel like I'm spreading the good word about that on the daily. But yeah, it's been a fair journey. I feel like 4 or 5 years ago, when I first started working for one of the group companies, Enchain, I joined because I was finding difficulty with the existing open source libraries. And so my goal was to kind of, rather than just complain about it, come help figure out how to code to some degree, because my background is cinematography, so I had to learn that stuff first to even be useful. I learned a bit of JavaScript from Unwriter back in the day, and learned Go from Jad, Siggy to some degree, David Case. And upskilled, did some courses, and started working on SPV, which is simplified payment verification, or as I like to call it, convoluted payment verification, because nobody understands it. But just making sure that people can actually just package up some data and send it from one phone to another, and that is an electronic cash payment. So that's what it's all been about for me. I went through a period where I was trying to build a business of my own, vibe coding before AI was a thing. And actually the guy who sat next to me in my co-working space was an AI guy, but he called himself the machine learning guy at the time. So it was just like the early days of that. It was GPT-2 or 3 at the time. I had a sideways view of how that sort of started growing as well to some degree. So it's always been kind of in parallel with all the AI stuff. But yeah, and now really it's just accelerated because of all those tools. It makes it very, very quick to develop these things. And I feel like we really got going in the right direction maybe just 2 years ago or something, when we started developing the TypeScript stack from the bottom up. So there's zero dependencies. So you write all the mathematics yourself. You write all of the low level script stuff on top of that, and you you start writing transaction coding on top of that, and then the higher level stuff like smart contracts and so on. And then maybe a year later, the application to wallet interface, which I feel like has just changed everything, because it allows application developers to focus on their business logic and solve problems for whoever their business benefactor is. They're ultimately their customers, but usually they're working for someone with a business mind that has a problem to solve. They can focus on that. And there are all these tools that do all this sort of hard math and cryptography that keep keys safe, that allow you to derive stealth addresses so that user privacy is across all apps now, sort of automatically. And that there's good sort of domain separation between all of this hard crypto stuff and all of the business logic, which you can sort of experiment with without doing any harm. So yeah, that's made I think a profound difference in the developer experience in BSV, which you look back a couple of years and it was like very difficult to get this stuff working, unless you went with one of the great companies at the time, MyButton, RelayX, Handcash. I feel like they all did a fantastic job of making tools for their wallet. And right before leaving the ecosystem, Ryan X. Charles was from MoneyButton moving in the right direction, trying to do interoperable, like, who cares who runs your wallet? Let's just make all websites work together. And I sort of took that torch and carried it forward once he left. And obviously with great support from the guys at Babbage, who, Ty being this sort of mastermind that had come up with a very elaborate but useful set of tools for their own ecosystem. And then after discussing with us, like, look, why don't we take this open source? Why don't we make sure this is the de facto way you do things in the ecosystem? And yeah, I've just been tremendously positive ever since then, to be honest, because there seems to be good uptake. We get good feedback for the first time in, honestly, years of trying, about 3 other times with tools that everyone hated. I'm the first to admit that those were not good tools, although we were trying. I think we finally got it right. So yeah, kudos to those guys for figuring that out for themselves and then seeing that it would be better if everyone had those tools.
Yeah, and so up here, this is kind of your pet baby at the moment, the BSV Browser, which is up on the screen. And
yes, that's right.
And I saw your post on, this is electronic cash, and it was an 8-second clip that went ding, and then the money was somewhere else.
That's right. Yeah.
It was a little a live demo here.
A little live demo, sure.
Here, and what actually is electronic cash as opposed to how payments have happened, with other wallets and MetaMask or something like that people may be used to.
Yeah. So the thing that really sets a technology like BSV apart from other payment technologies is just the fact that the actual transaction is can happen while the Wi-Fi radio is on, but you're not connected to a network. Because what phones can do nowadays is actually have P2P Wi-Fi. So you can imagine you're on a train underground or something like that, or in an airplane where you don't have Starlink, and you're just communicating with the person sat next to you. The phone can actually transmit a decent amount of data just to that other phone, right? So this is true with NFC, Bluetooth low energy, and Wi-Fi radio. So you've got all these options these days. And so this application actually, I shouldn't have closed that, but you're not in a meeting. Oh, okay, I guess I got kicked out. You've seen the demo. I was going to show you some other stuff, but it's okay. So the idea is very different from anything like even X Money, which is not even out yet, is rolling out to a few select people now. But just, I guess, Venmo over here. What's the equivalent around the world? What is it in Australia? I'm not sure.
There's
Cash App.
Yeah, I don't know if we've got Cash App, but we've got Osco, which is like the banking payment transfer really quickly. Yeah. Grab, I think, not Grab, in whatever it is in the Philippines.
Right. So yeah. It's different in many nations, but let's just say the idea is that you're transferring peer-to-peer. X Money actually calls it peer-to-peer in their advertising, which is bizarre because it's definitely not. So what's actually happening there is you have a database, and it's an amazing database. Don't get me wrong, it's a great database. X is doing great on that front, but they're flipping a couple of entries in tables in their own database and saying that Todd paid Deggen or whatever. This is not peer-to-peer. This doesn't work on the train with no network connectivity, because all of the power is with X Money, and they can kick you off whenever they want. And as much as I may like the organization to some degree, it's not the same as actually having sovereignty over your own device. It's not the same as having the actual information about the money in your hand and then sending that information to the other person, and they can check all the information. You know, it really is like physically moving data from your phone to their phone, and their phone is validating the data. That's peer-to-peer electronic cash. That's how it was always supposed to be. And sure, settlement takes a global network of miners to agree on which transactions happen first, and you know, they solve the double spend problem. But the actual interaction between peers is data between two devices. So that's so awesome to me. I'm like, why isn't everyone absolutely crazy about this right now? This is, you know, maybe everyone complains about the slowly eroding freedoms that we all have around the Western world, at least, and I don't really know what to do about it. Well, I feel like this is what we do about it, because this, like you said at the start, it's bringing power back to the people, because it takes power out of money. Because if there's a fixed protocol, then no one can change anything about it, and we can all interact with each other freely. So
because like just the week prior, we had Siggy on, and in preparation for promoting that episode, I created an AI short film to promote the episode, and that's exactly what the short storyline was about. And one of the lines in the storyline was how, you know, Bitcoin it needs to be on a stable protocol, and it's the basis of sovereignty to have that stability, and then also that it takes power out of money, that exact phrasing. And so it's interesting that you're saying that. So, okay, so I've got a question for you. So because we were kind of talking about this before we sort of started, which was speaking to a friend, shared that film with the friend, and just to get his like take on it. And his position was, I think a lot of people have a similar position, which is like, well, you know, I heard about, you know, Bitcoin, whatever, maybe it's 2017, you know, in one of the very popular bull runs, and maybe he didn't get into it until more recently. I think for him, it was like he bought some in 2024 at 60K. Right now it's at 60K. We're talking about BTC here. And so he's like, yeah, I think there's no kind of like interest from his side to even look at Bitcoin in any way, because he feels like he's kind of missed the boat. And if he didn't buy BTC back in like 2012 or 13, 14, then the only real benefit to him is maybe trading Bitcoin and getting more fiat, because that's about, you know, like the only benefits he sees. And underneath that, he's saying some things without saying it, which is like, how do I make money with Bitcoin? Kind of like without him really realizing. And like, if there was other ways for him to make money with Bitcoin, then I'm sure he would be interested. So
it sounds to me more like, how can Bitcoin make money for me? Right?
Yeah.
If you're just trying to buy it and wait.
Right. Yeah. And I know.
He's looking at Bitcoin as a volatile market with enough liquidity in it that you can swing and take positions either way. So there's a risk there, and it is speculative.
It's speculative. I guess what I'm maybe leading him towards, or at least like the idea is like, if he knew there was a way, or there were ways, and maybe like, I don't know of all the ways, but like if he knew that there were other benefits to using Bitcoin, and especially if it made him money, that that he can make money with the use of Bitcoin, whether it's creating a business or whatever the case is,
Right.
then that might be another entry point for him. But in his eyes, he's like looking at, okay, it's like I've missed the boat on it. So Bitcoin is just like any other crypto. It's some sort of asset that goes up and down, and I'm just going to make money from trading it. And that's about it. So I have no more interest in Bitcoin anymore because that's it. There's nothing else relevant for Bitcoin. He also takes the position that, going back to your whole sovereignty comment, well, he understands that, the problem with fiat currency and inflation, devaluation of money and money printing, he understands that. He's from Brazil, so he kind of experiences high inflation. He understands the problem, with government corruption and whatnot. He understands the promise of what Bitcoin and crypto in a larger sense was meant to do, which was kind of like give power back to the people by removing power from money. But he just believes that there is nothing that we can do because the government and governments in general will never let Bitcoin or any other crypto really give people power. So what would you say to that particular friend? And I'm sure there's a ton of people just like him that are like on the fringe of Bitcoin. They kind of get it. They kind of dabbled. They even went into some rabbit holes perhaps, but they're like, yeah, I've missed the boat. It's like,
yeah,
it's 60K back then, it's 60K now. There's nothing really.
It's kind of making me angry, to be honest. You fucking coward. Well, we have to do all the work, right? You don't want to do anything. Of course, you have to fight the enemy with all of your effort. You can't just, of course, they're not going to give you the power back. Yeah. Dude, no.
There's no more. Yeah, I get what you're saying, right? You're like, there's no more fighting people anymore.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like no one is coming to save us. Mm-hmm. We actually have to get off our asses, build businesses that use this stuff, and slowly convert the people who don't have enough depth to look into the plumbing of the system, right? Like most people don't give a shit about that stuff, right? We have to be the people who pick those pieces up and lay them out so that the average person actually wants to make the decision that is in their own interest. Yeah. Imagining that we can determine that ourselves. Maybe we don't know what we're talking about, right? I'll admit that, but if he really understands that this is going to be better for whatever society at large, then figure out your place in the machine that turns the power off in money, right? So there's small things you can do, right? You're just one person, so what can you do about it is kind of a defeatist position. Yeah. But it angers me because I'm like, hey, you need to find other people who think the same way you do. We need to band together and figure this out. So part of it is, of course, you need to generate some interest in business yourself, but like just small examples in terms of the things that we've been talking about for the last 16 years, which is like remittance. It's micropayments, and especially now with the AI APIs, X402. You can sell inference per token on BSV. No one else can do that. So there's a business opportunity for you. People want to buy inference. The Chinese want to buy inference from the United States for now because they can't get enough chips, but they have all this power, right?
Hold on, slow you down right there, because just explain that a little bit more for like somebody that is not like me, that is not like super in on some of the more technical use cases of Bitcoin. Because you say inference, and I kind of get what that means. In my understanding, that means like some sort of copy of a framework or.
Oh, sorry. I mean compute. Paying for time with a GPU. So let's just say AI computers. You're buying time with them, right? And specifically per word. You can pay per word. I'm saying. So the current model is pay a monthly bill, and you get access to our machines. If you use them more than a certain amount, pay a higher monthly bill. What I'm saying is, with this technology, we actually have the granularity to pay for a token, which means that if someone comes out with a better model, then you can pay for this model. The next second, you can switch. In the current system, you got to pay for the whole month up ahead, and then Anthropic come out with their latest model, and you're like, oh shit, I also pay a month for Anthropic then, and then GPT 6 comes out, and I'm going to switch to this. So they keep you paying these monthly bills, Whereas what you can do is completely drop your bill to zero on this model and immediately start paying, not even bills, but like per token, whatever inference you need, whatever compute you need, for whatever model you need. So that's just as a human, right? You also then have agentic stuff where there are selectors for which model you should use for a particular given task, right? So you can then have businesses which are, so I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of a business that does this, but let's just say a platform where you can pay it and it will find the best inference for you on the market. Right? So this is solving that same problem in a different way, but you still have to pay them a monthly bill. So what if they take some time to add another supplier that's just come out of China and no one's heard of yet?
Yeah.
Well, if you're paying per token, you can just switch whenever. So it's like the liquidity that you have in a market of all possible things that can be sold over the internet. If you have micropayments like that, it just gives you more fluidity. It means the market can move faster. And in this AI era, we're just moving faster and faster all the time. So these agentic payments and micropayments, I think, you need a system that can do millions of transactions per second. And so far, there's just the one.
I think like the guy, if you're using him as an example, the Brazilian friend, he's thinking of just payments and thinking, Bitcoin excels at providing payment or cash settlement for all the things that weren't previously possible before Bitcoin. It doesn't really excel at competing with, PayPal or something to send $30 because there's a lot of friction of it does at the actual transaction, but of the whole work for me to send $30 in BSV to someone who doesn't have BSV and then to be able to have the value of $30 purchasing power at the end, it doesn't excel at that currently because of the friction, the on-ramping, off-ramping and stuff like that, and the merchants who accept it. But Bitcoin excels at payments, small casual payments under thresholds.
It does.
Transfer in that. And a lot of people haven't really thought about introducing economics or market or granular markets to those capabilities. And so find the thing that it works at really well. But, Anil, just a few minutes ago, you didn't know what inference meant. So there's a gap in the knowledge of people's what they feel they can actually develop a business around, because they don't realize what an API call is and that you could pay per ad, or what power could be.
I honestly, to be honest, Darren, I still didn't fully wrap my head around the business opportunity that you tried to describe. I understood it more from a consumer. The way you described it sounded more like a consumer type of interaction than it sounded like a business opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. So, for example, the platform that allows you to make films with AI diffusion models would be a business opportunity, right? So it goes out and buys inference from wherever supplies that. So I won't speculate where they get that from, but they use all sorts of models to generate images, and they're selling you the sort of interface of software to write the script and give the scenes descriptions and so on, right? So that's a business, as in they're adding value to the raw inference, but they still need to buy inference and effectively upsell it to you for a higher price is the business model, right?
Can I give you like a specifics just so I understand this a little bit better? So there's a platform that I used to create that film, which was called Higgsfield. And there was a model that I used specifically within Higgsfield that is available within other platforms called CDance 2.0.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying that you're saying that Higgsfield is buying access to the model CDance through some other like unknown provider at a cheaper rate and then sells it under the label CDance to the retail market?
I would imagine so, yes. I mean, I'm not very familiar with that particular business, but like that seems to be the model for that kind of SaaS platform these days. Yeah. Right? So they're adding value to it, so you don't have to generate. Well, it's like what do they call it? A harness in some sense for filmmaking, whereas the frontier model people see, Dancer or whatnot, are just doing the models And so they're adding this software and giving it a better harness so you can get more out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a business, and there are like a million businesses like that at the moment.
So we need a whole damn episode on this stuff, right? Like on like business opportunities with it, because like that's what I want to know about, more about like business opportunities with Bitcoin. And yeah.
I mean, I can give you one more that's totally different. Stablecoins, right? So the Genius Act passed. The Clarity Act in the United States is going to pass soon, any moment now, kind of thing.
Sure.
The rest of the world will probably look at that and copy most of it, and that will be the basis of stablecoins globally. So then, once you have a clean legal framework, because the legal stuff is kind of the hard part, the technology is just a question of which platform do you want to use, and there's obviously hundreds. And so if you're looking for the one that can provide the most transactions per second globally, then you start to look at things like BSV, despite all of the history, right? You look like, well, but like, what are we trying to do here? So the business model is this: the more customers we have that hold our stablecoin, the more US Treasury bonds we can hold and take the 4%.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, that's the whole business model, right? They just pay the legal fees up front, which is like $1 million a year of legal fees. And then all you need to pay that off is maybe $200 million of stablecoins that people are holding using your token. Because that means you can hold that many US Treasury bonds, and that will pay for legal and your staff and everything like that. So yeah, there's like a massive opportunity there. If you know lawyers, speak to them about this. You know, once the Clarity Act's through, set up a stablecoin business, partner with some bank so you can get on and off ramps, and then just sit on money and make sure that your user interface is more beautiful than the hundreds of other competitors that are going to be competing against you. And know that all those competitors probably haven't heard of BSV, or if they have, think it's a scam, but you know better that it actually works. And you know, we have the technology stack, which is, by the way, millions of dollars worth of investment into free open source software that you can just pick up from GitHub and use.
Right.
Then that gives you a massive opportunity, because we're not just going to 1 million transactions per second. There's just no ceiling. It's just a case of that is going to, over the years, go higher and higher. And I don't want to be, you know, you already spoke to Siggy, so he probably told you some numbers. I don't want to be the guy who says the new numbers, but
well, and
it's getting better all the time, put it that way.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let me ask you a detailed question, because so you're basically talking about like AI and blockchain, but I'm not really understanding the connection of how blockchain technology is connected to like AI. For me, it feels disconnected in my current, you know, it does. I don't like, for example,
well, there's other ways that it is.
Is Higgsfield, are all these AI platforms like Anthropic, ChatGPT, are they using blockchain technology underneath? So from that perspective, I don't think they are, as far as I understand. So
no, they're doing the monthly billing model, and they're paying banking fees or card fees. Most of them, at least like AI to consumer, they're paying card fees essentially, or they're either paying card fees themselves or making it more expensive for the consumer so that it covers the card fees, right? The 2-3%, 1% if they're lucky, if they're selling a lot. So they don't use blockchain, for the most part.
Maybe we like, just as a little like crash course or something about even how an AI model is constructed. Like, let's look at the whole supply chain of the result you get from an AI, but going back, how does the model even be able to give you that result? What is training look like of the models, and how, because in Australia, there's a new office or a sort of ministry or something like that that's come under the Office of the Prime Minister and Cabinet, and it's looking at AI and copyright. And so I got asked the other day, can we solve some of these problems around AI, copyright, and attribution of that? And I said, well, you actually need digital identity in there, because you're going to have to attribute the property ownership of the intellectual property to someone and track them through the training model. But if we even just sort of see if there's some touch points for blockchain in from the beginning of when a book gets scanned, gets chunked into tokens, gets put into a model. Like, how are the models created in the first place to give you this visual output or this language output? Can you answer any of that, Deggen?
Oh, yeah, I'm certainly no expert in this stuff. I know about as much as the average coder probably. But yeah, I guess you're bringing up a good point in that these frontier models are, creating these massive embeddings of information. In some sense, they're trying to compress information down as much as possible into a vector database, that when you then ask it to infer the next token, sentence, paragraph, etc., it can extract the accumulated information that has been put into it into new sentences that are, probabilistic in some sense. So I guess what you're talking about is, what information goes into that could theoretically be monetized. So if you write a paper and the model ingests that paper in its training data, then could every inference request to the model, once it's been constructed, actually pay you your percentage of the value you contributed to that embedding? Wow. Yeah, wouldn't that be mad? Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, essentially. Like, that's like, when you start looking at the amount of tokens and the parameters in a particular model, like billion model, there's not enough that you can map a token, because a token may be a word or even less than a word, to a Satoshi. But there was a recent repo put up by Craig had subsat payment channels. So you can have, say, like in the embeddings, you have like this sort of ontology or a vector database, and as you step down to certain depths, you might sort of invoke all of the things that are under a particular topic, and then how much a peer-reviewed paper comes out of it versus how much a Substack post comes into it versus how much a 10 down the tree in a Reddit comment comes into it, because these models have kind of aggregated all of the words that
compressed it down
to and compressed it and said, where this word's used, overlay, the next most likely word is going to be this one. But if we have some embeddings over the top which have sort of filtered it and said, look, we're looking through the lens of computer, a BSV network, rather than we're looking at the overlay in a pure networking stack, you've brought in some context to sort of constrain the vector database or the embeddings database to say, look, we're looking at it in the natural next word, but with a filter applied from this other thing, and now which words are in the closest proximity to be the next one, as a probabilistic output. So there's, I think that it's a very big challenge in the copywriting. Did you see the other day that I think it was Anthropic had this giant warehouse of all these super rare books? They did high-speed scan all to PDF and then shredded them up to a competitive advantage that no one's going to have as much access to this rare literature.
It's just a different version of the gray goo, isn't it? It's just destroying everything in some sense. Yeah, well, bringing it into the body.
Everything just is like this. The next word isn't actually, creation and literature and mastery of language and insight. It's, this was the most probabilistic next word, and so everything back to the slop feeding the slop.
Yeah, that's the word that came to mind.
Yeah, it's
wood pulp slop. Yeah,
I think some of the new models are even having problems where they're getting trained on their own crap, which sounds convincing, but it's, maybe we've reached the peak in the output and they're throwing more compute at it and you're getting diminishing returns because it's starting to train on itself. And so that's why I said, in the essence, it's an identity problem, because you want to be able to say what information is actually worth. Some's got to be worth more than others to put into the model in the first place. And if there's not a human in the loop, or if it's AI generated output, that's not going to increase the Shannon entropy of the system. The Shannon entropy only increases from.
We need to let the AI models make ad hominems, right?
Well, some of them make certain ad hominems, and then they've got their own like handlers, biases, and sensitivities in there. So it's like, sorry, I won't do that, and then it's happy to like rip on another like minority or something like that, or
right.
whatever else. Yeah. So, anyway, that's what I was when Anil, you were saying, how does blockchain become? How there seem separate systems, but I'm saying no, because blockchain adds the record keeping and where the data came from. You use blockchain for that, chunking the source material that went into the training model, attributing the royalties of that being invoked in the inference, adding granularity to that to the degree that you can, by breaking it up. But I think it's the only technology that can offer that kind of record keeping into that depth of a AI supply chain, like the supply chain of a response, whether that's an image generation or a LLM's generative output. So it's sort of, they're not as far apart as you think they are. And a blockchain adding, have you read Konstantinos's paper with Ian Grigg of the multi-neighborhood cellular automata as a substrate for AGI on the blockchain? 2016 or 2019, I think. But it was saying that the cellular automata?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Conway's Game of Life or something like that. These sort of groups where they'll granularize a field or a set of data and put parameters on. This is a quadrant or a tile or something like that.
Yeah, simple rules.
You have a function that goes across it and can transform the tiles, and the tiles can have input that transforms them based off their neighboring. So speaking to Konstantinos, he was saying there's people that are doing work with that where they're say getting a visual feed from a drone footage or something and transforming the spatial coordinates into the tiles, and then having if the vegetation's growing in one area, it will start to suggest a fuzzy edge with the next tile. And even if you went and cleared the trees again and these tiles effectively become dead because there's no delta on the changes of them, they can come back to life because the tiles next to them can actually sort of re-invoke them. And they were suggesting that that's the mechanism when you've got a system that can keep records in such a way with a timestamp and interrelate them to one another through, the transaction graph. That's the best way for an AGI or an agent, or not an agent, an artificial intelligence to traverse a data set that's structured in that way, that has the relationships in that way, that has the time stamping, like temporal ordering of it, because you can start to, corroborate it from multiple different perspectives, I guess. It's a static data set that doesn't change underneath your feet. It's kind of like a set in stone protocol allows you to build fixed on something. A set in stone data set allows you to actually iterate on improving the intelligence rather than having it's all a black box behind it as to what trained it and whether or not the responses are actually getting better or worse or just more convincing or
it makes it hard to delete experiments that went wrong.
You want it to wear its scars, which I've heard someone else sort of frame it in that way. When AI will only have the intelligence when it wears the scars of all its mistakes and shows you why it's now better than it was, rather than just more convincing.
Like a human.
Yes, like a human. But Anil, did that confuse you more? Did it clarify more, or did it?
Yeah, I got lost in that.
Super clarifying, Todd. Thanks.
I think the general crypto trader is thinking of these kind of business opportunities in that AI depth, and so we need to find areas that they're familiar with where they're going.
But I was just thinking, because what you described, Darren, was like I don't know, man. It sounds like big business opportunities, like big business opportunities, massive capital that's required, all sorts of complicated stuff. Whereas like, I don't know that the average person is really going to be looking at that. Maybe on the creator side of things, there could be a simpler way to, you know, benefit from Bitcoin and its capabilities with like NFTs. And I don't know a ton, but like I feel like there is stuff happening right now on BSV that makes NFTs and that idea kind of interesting for like, for
physical
example,
collectibles with digital twins. Yeah.
Yeah, and like and potentially royalties, right? Like you're creating, let's say you're creating music, you're creating art, you're even short films, like whatever, and maybe there's some stuff around that where like I think a lot of people, that's a big market. Like people are obviously into like social media, influencer, content creator type of stuff. Like I feel like that could be a little bit more of an easier entry point as opposed to like being Anthropic's service provider,
Reseller.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I guess I mean the reason I spoke about that stuff is because it's something that has been identified by people who are in other blockchains. So the X402 stuff is Coinbase, and a lot of the micropayment inference goes over Ethereum. And those businesses are just marginal, and the margin with BSV is significantly lower because the fees are lower.
Yeah.
So it's not like you even have to find someone that would want to pay for something with BSV. You would have to find buyers and sellers, and you're just providing a bridge. I mean, I'm just thinking this way because this is the type of business that I would run if I'm leaving the BSVA at some point. This is the sort of thing that I would be looking at business opportunity wise.
Yeah. So you're saying that that's something feasible. You wouldn't need some massive kind of raise or
no. It's like a week of vibe coding, and then marketing, and lots of marketing.
You know, you need like $1 million. I think we were talking about
stablecoins. Yes, legal fees in stablecoins. Very serious stuff. With the inference stuff, people don't care at all. It's not regulated whatsoever. Just go for it.
Yeah. When you said stablecoins, I was like, no, that sounds that sounds like a very complicated business, and that is, you know, lots of risk.
I think it is. Yeah, I don't want to do that personally. I would love to do the tech, but I don't want to find the lawyers to.
They'll just run you on the license or something like that. You know, you
probably end up in jail or something. You know,
I think
would take one wrong step. No, I'm not interested. But I'm happy to make the software that does the technical stuff. I just don't want to be involved in the legal side of things, which is true of most people, which is why, you know, you set up a corporation that can go down so you don't have to go down.
Sure.
The shit hits the fan. You know?
Maybe like, can we, because we're talking about, you know, blockchain's touch point into different businesses and such, but you are the head of distributed applications. So maybe we can say like, what is a distributed application? What is it like? Oh,
that's a good point. Yeah.
So so there are different types of distributed applications, right?
Sure. Yeah, so
distributed
across what is sometimes the question. Yeah, I mean, an analogous word would be decentralized, right? Try to avoid having that word in my title, but it effectively.
But that would be really good if you actually deep dive on what it is and what it is not, and maybe the spectrum of its payoff potentially, because obviously that's a huge, like, let's say coming from the BTC world, like that is like one of the 10 commandments, or you know what I mean? One of the 3 commandments of free money is decentralized.
Decentralize all the things, right?
Yeah, decentralized.
So what does it even mean? So for me, at least, what I mean when I say distributed applications or decentralized applications or dApps, is that most of the stuff happens on the person who is using a tool or a website, the software. The person who's using the software is using that software on their own device predominantly. So all of the things that they're interacting with is pretty much all happening on their device. And then so like a centralized application, it's like it's a window into something that's mostly happening on a server somewhere else. So I guess that would be the basic definition from my perspective. So it's not relying on any central coordinating server. Most of the stuff is happening on the person's device, and it's distributed or decentralized because the people are all over the world.
I don't know if I fully understand that. Are you saying that like the users are kind of self-hosting the applications, or what do you mean that it's the stuff is happening on their device? Because like if I were to go on, let's give a centralized example, I don't know, like
Airbnb.
What's that? Airbnb? Yeah, like if I were to go on Airbnb, you said Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Right?
Airbnb.
Yeah. If I were to go on an Airbnb, my experience is that I'm doing stuff on my own device. So could you maybe draw a little finer distinction between what you're saying, like in terms of all the stuff happening on my device versus it happening on the server?
Yeah, so Airbnb, you log in to an application, so you provide some details, communicates with the server, and the server checks those details somehow, maybe an OTP, maybe it's a password hash or something like that. And then you log into your account, right, with Airbnb. But it's your account at Airbnb, and all of the bookings that you make, they're on Airbnb's servers. They belong to Airbnb, and they can lock you out of that whenever they feel like it.
Sure.
There's actually nothing useful on the device except maybe some pretty boxes.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you were to do the decentralized application version of Airbnb, then it would be more like you have a bunch of tokens that represent days at the apartment you're renting out, and they're on your device. And if you want if Todd wants to stay at your place, you send him the token that represents access control for that particular day that he wants to stay, and you send it from your device across the internet to his device. And then when he comes to your apartment, he uses that device to unlock the door, and he's able to stay for that time. And then that's it. Like, he can't get back in the next day because he doesn't have access. Whereas with Airbnb, it's all about like accounts and advertising on your behalf. With the distributed applications version, you're the person with the data, and maybe you put that data on an overlay, which is kind of like the shared context that Airbnb is providing, but you own the advertisement. So you make a transaction to put the advertisement for your apartment on an overlay for what do you call that kind of thing? Short-term rental. Yeah. So you have short-term rental topic on an overlay, and the overlay just holds tokens for who's got short-term rentals available, and then people are buying them by the day, kind of thing.
Because I probably threw a spanner in the works there, because what we're talking about, there's a distributed application, and then Airbnb is more of a platform that has an application. But so maybe the distributed applications could compete with something like a SaaS, the software as a service. The platforms are going to require some kind of overlay that's managed by a service provider that will provide.
But it's still distributed because it doesn't belong to anyone.
Yeah. So
anyone.
You're giving the lens. So say I've got a house, you've got a house, and we want to publish it to the overlay. Who maintains the infrastructure of the overlay?
Doesn't matter. So the difference is with distributed applications is you define a topic that is short-term rental overlay topic, right? And it's just like the Bitcoin protocol. You set the topic in stone. That is the definition of short-term rentals. And then the power is distributed. Then anyone can submit, as long as they meet the topic manager's requirements, which is just like you need to give an address for the place and the availability, or, let's not go into the details. But the point is you need to meet a certain protocol for sharing the information so that somebody else can pick up the information if they buy the thing. So as long as you do that, then you can submit and revoke tokens on there. But the data belongs to you, as in the person making the offer. and the token to access belongs to the person who wants to buy it from you. And that's a peer-to-peer agreement that just uses protocol as the negotiating parameters. Airbnb like adjudicates everything and is like a middleman that takes a cut, right? So with an overlay, you don't have a middleman that takes a cut.
Does someone have the, host the discs that the stuff's written on?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's the platform, is the one that, and they give you like, we can guarantee really quick responses from the overlay. We can do this, and the requirements then are much lower, that you could probably service that for 1 cent per each matchmaking, rather
exactly.
than
It would be significantly lower. And technically, you don't need it if you can advertise in different ways, right? That would be just one way to advertise it to anyone. But if you're just, if you're advertising on X with X posts or something, then you don't need to pay any other platform, right? So,
but you may, for others they need to have an insight into to X to discover you there, to reconcile the platform. Then maybe something like an aggregator that looks for across X, that looks across, bulletin board, and finds all of the.
But the point is there's no one person in control other than the person who owns the property and wants to rent it out, and the person who wants to buy time at that property. So hypothetically, it could be peer-to-peer. You could just meet someone out in the town and say, hey, do you want a place to stay? $20.
Ride sharing, like I think there was a video of Awe and Craig back in the day. It was Uber without the Uber.
Yes.
So you guys, I know I'm going to plug something here that's in BTC, but I think it's super relevant to what we're talking about. I just dropped it in the chat. I don't know if you guys want to share screen, or if you want me to share screen, but it's basically Airbnb. Well, so it's Airbnb, but BTC friendly homeowners and BTC friendly guests, right?
Cool.
That particular website, I'd imagine, is also just a very centralized type of platform.
Looks like it.
Yeah, and whereas
it's just a niche platform, right?
It's just a niche platform. It just happens to be that they're gonna spend money in BTC. So this is a communication platform, really. It's not necessarily that they're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, it's just coordinating their state details, I'd imagine. So
like me cross couch surfing. You're a Bitcoin enthusiast. Maybe you might say you can pay in Bitcoin, but they're not making a Bitcoin transaction that carries the overlay topic, that says this is a discoverable, a rentable apartment for these days. Nothing like that is occurring with an on-chain transaction there. And maybe some payments are occurring in Bitcoin, but they're probably going to be on a Lightning or something like that, because, or they're at a value where, a couple of dollar fees doesn't matter to do it.
Sure. With that amount of value being transacted, no big deal for sure. No, so cool. So we could do a similar type of idea, but much more Bitcoin native and much more decentralized.
Yes, that's the idea, right? We want to be able to interact peer-to-peer while not submitting all of your details about your business and your life to platforms that can then go on to sell that information to third parties, usually is what they would do, right?
So you just did a good explanation, I think, of what is decentralization, but how does that differ from, does that differ at all to what most people understand decentralization to be in the BTC space?
Yeah, probably, actually. Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest pushback on decentralization we get in BSV is, there's only one miner, or there are very few nodes, is a complaint that maybe someone who's enthusiastic about Bitcoin in general, but sees BSV as like not decentralized enough.
Yeah.
Right. So from my perspective, this is a misunderstanding of what needs to be decentralized, which is power, and which comes from having a fixed protocol. Because if you have minions sort of moving things around and changing things, then you have power concentrated in often developers that change stuff, right?
But let me pause you there, because like in so like all these BIPs, like this Bitcoin improvement proposals happening that is those are all protocol changes, or not necessarily all the time the protocol changes?
No, not necessarily. I mean, some of them are about key encoding and things like that, which are perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, Bitcoin Improvement Proposals, I think, is what it stands for, right? BIP. So the name suggests that there's something to improve, and us Puritans would rather it didn't improve. It's good enough. Yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah, it's quite a different take, because some people, as I've experienced in some X spaces, I peruse whatever X spaces there are just to see what some of these ideas are going around with. And some of the, let's call them OG BTC people, supporters, are quite passionate about being able to improve the protocol. That's like a huge, important capability in their space.
Right. So in other words, they don't understand decentralization.
Funny enough, right? That's why I asked you to define decentralization and delineate between what you just defined it as and what mostly is spoken about in the BTC space. I find that just coming from, because that's how I came into Bitcoin, was through BTC. And I think most people are coming into, when I say Bitcoin, I'm referring to BSV, just for everyone listening. But most people that come into BTC, or let's call it what they think is Bitcoin, is most of the time it's coming into BTC. And I find that there's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions and misinformation from having gone through that indoctrination pathway into Bitcoin, that when you come across BSV, you're either going to just immediately write it off because of mainstream narratives about BSV, or number two, you just won't even compute what we're talking about or what people are talking about in the space, and you'll just oh, whatever, just kind of write it off. So there's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done.
Yeah, I totally get it as well, because there are thousands of blockchains, and most of them, honestly, I don't understand very well, because they use all sorts of different technologies that are often convoluted white papers, difficult to follow. I felt in some eras that it was actually intentionally convoluted. You know what I mean? To just be like, okay, switch the brain off, overwhelmed.
Give them the money, the experts. Just throw money out,
Totally. I'm totally guilty of that as well. I get it.
Yeah.
But if you look at the fundamentals, it is all about, well, if we have to coordinate globally, we can't be changing the rules all the time. I mean, there's some stuff that can be changed without breaking anything. If you have global, as in, if everyone involved in the system agrees, then I think that it's okay to make a change so long as everyone agrees. But actually coordinating that is almost impossible. So I think the amount of times you should do that over the course of a protocol's use is almost never.
But that's basically how it works in BTC.
HTTP, for example, TLS.
Well, don't they require a 95% consensus? At least before they did. Now it's, I think,
they don't have identity, so they say a 95% consensus mechanism to stop the Sybils. So you can create more than one identity for yourself to make it be in your favor. So it's not actually a democratic function, because they're starting to count nodes that have no say on the network, that are easy to spin up.
Define that again, Chris, for people. Again, I'm just trying to make it real.
Okay. So
so when you say nodes that don't have a say, why do you say that?
Because the only way to have a say in the Bitcoin protocol is to reference a valid previous block as your previous block hash and say you're going to build on it. That's the way you say that last block followed the rules. If you're not creating a new block that references a previous block, you're impotent. You're not doing anything.
Yeah. So you're saying that
signaling,
just being a node runner, I think, is what the term that people use in BTC, which are non-mining nodes.
They say they're transactions and helping, but they're not, because they're just requiring duplication of the transaction message or the event of a block or a transaction across the network. They're requiring a connection to an actual node that's doing work to synchronize with them to say, here's an update. So they're like a bandwidth leech they're obsolete in the relaying of transactions because all the nodes are incentivized.
To use a sexual reference, it's not like they're even sitting in the cuck chair. They're actually watching their phone, and they're not even present in the room.
Yeah.
Them cucked, yeah.
It's lower than cuck tier.
On like a
Pure gooner tier.
180p.
Right.
Or potato quality,
On potato internet, yeah.
They do say one of the important things about running a node is so that you can verify the transaction yourself. Like that's almost, I guess, the only benefit of running a node is to verify it. So I feel like there's a big misunderstanding or complete.
You can verify all the transactions. It's just that no one is listening to you, so they don't care. So the porn analogy, you can watch it happen. You can't do anything to change what's happening.
But is there value in verifying it yourself by running a node, even though you can't change anything what's happening, but you can at least for yourself verify transactions?
Okay, yes, I agree with that. You can do that, but it's like running a marathon to arrive next door or something like that. It's just a lot of running for no real benefit. You could have just walked next door.
What's the analogy for walking next door? Is it SPV verification?
It's SPV, yeah. So it's mathematically equivalent to having checked absolutely everything.
Right.
Because you just
That's what I'm saying.
check. Yeah. You just check that the transaction you're actually interested in, or the set of transactions you're interested in, did actually make it into blocks. And then you can just disregard all other data, right? You don't need to check everyone else's transactions. Why would you care? Doesn't make any sense. If someone gives you a transaction, then a lot of people say, but it's not confirmed yet. So what we do in BSV is we when we're transferring the transaction, we don't just give the new transaction, we give the new transaction and every transaction that came before it that hasn't been mined yet until we arrive at a set that has been mined. So those at least have proof that they're already in the blockchain, and you can check that against headers personally with very little effort. And then you check all the transactions since between there and the one that gave you. So that's how you validate absolutely all of the data that you have to validate to make sure that that transaction really is correct without validating anything else. And then you have to, sort of by definition, you need to know that the inputs have not been spent by another transaction that hasn't been confirmed yet. Yeah. And by definition, the only people who can tell you that are miners, and they can only tell you that if you broadcast the transaction. Because if they don't all have it, then it's still up to debate. So there's no way to check it if you aren't actually producing blocks.
But if you broadcast it, and you don't need to wait for the block to be found, because if you've broadcast it and a miner says, yeah, I've seen that, I've included it, it's going to be in my next block, that miner's basically saying all the ancestry checks out and this most recent one's valid. So you wouldn't get that if any of the ones in its parent. There
are edge cases. There are edge cases, especially now because we have Arcade now, which it takes a transaction over a normal HTTP request and it will send it to every mining Terranode, right? So Terranode's the new node software for BSV. So there's a slight corner case, which is like was never going to happen, but theoretically it could. So we have this corner case. So if there are two competing transactions spending the same UTXOs within about half a second of each other on globally distributed nodes, and one gets one and the other gets the other, they will be in a state of, there's actually a conflict here where not all of the network received the transaction at the same time. So then you do have to wait for one confirmation.
Yeah. So if the values matters, you know, a cup of coffee, why is someone spending it out? Like, are you double spending to someone?
It would be extremely complicated to set up something that could double spend in a way that it got your transaction at the coffee shop routed it to the other side of the world faster than a network that is, T1 network that's directly connected, graph, right? Complete graph. Trying to get it to the other world and submit to half of the network before you submit to the network.
And then just to gain $5 of...
Exactly. For what purpose have you spent this thousands of dollars just to fuck up someone's coffee purchase? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But anyway, just to say, there are cases and we handle them. We actually have a new status in Arcade that says seen on multiple nodes.
Okay.
And that will trigger, if my PR goes in, that will trigger at the point which 51% of the last 100 block miners have put it into a subtree.
So 51% of one miner on BSV.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there is something like 7.
Okay, 7, yeah.
Yeah, something like 7
like big ones, but
So just on that last point there, why is because that's an attack point, a criticism point on BSV, which is it's centralized because there's only 1, 2, or 3, or 7 miners. So, and you're saying that the decentralization is at a different point or a different
yeah, because the miners don't actually have power. They just enforce the rules. They can't change the rules. If they change the rules, then let's just say there has to be a minimum of 2 separate entities mining. And there's something like 4, something like that. And I think they show up as 7 names, but it's something like 4, and some of them split their hash across different companies in different regions or something like that. But in terms of who controls them, it's probably something like 4.
Yeah.
But as long as there are 2, in some sense, one company keeps the other company in check. And as soon as one of them breaks the rules, they're wasting a bunch of hash, creating invalid stuff, because all of the applications, distributed applications, are basing their opinions on having this fixed protocol. So if it receives a transaction that's invalid in some way, then they're not going to accept the transaction because they're checking all of the transactions that they receive, if that makes sense. So like an exchange is usually what gets attacked, right? If the exchange is actually running SPV, they know whether that transaction is malformed because they're actually checking it. Mm-hmm. And it's just a question of which block is it going to be in. And if there are competing spends, that shows up immediately. They're informed within a half a second.
Got it.
So they're not going to, at that point, they're going to be like, well, this is disputed, which means you're probably doing some funny business. Actually, I'm just going to block you from our exchange forever.
Mm-hmm.
So very simple to deal with if you're doing things correctly.
Yeah, I think it's just it's really a non-issue. If you just start building these things, that people are objecting about it because I don't really even understand why they're objecting about it. It says you go and start using the tech. If you put all your wealth, if you're going to use BSV to store all your investment and you've got $100,000 in crypto or $500,000 in crypto, maybe you're a bit more inclined to worry. But if you've got $500,000 in crypto, why don't you put $10,000 into starting a business in a scalable blockchain that maybe does $50,000 in business over the next 3 years, and you got a return on some of your stash that's in there by actually doing something productive rather than just fearing that.
Totally agree.
This is a great segue though, but you're still going back to the same problem. You're storing. So let's say your business makes money in BSV, you still have to store a bunch of wealth in BSV. So this is a perfect segue to, I think, a really relevant topic because of what has happened recently. Let me just pull it up. With what's the card name? Cold Card Wallet, right? So there's this guy that I found on X. He says, I just got robbed. $1.6 million in Bitcoin was drained from my account on July 29th in the Cold Card Wallet hack. How's your day going? And so he's one amongst many users of that Cold Card Wallet. I think the total amount that was hacked was around 70 million. We were just checking this before we started the show here. So we started the show with the BSV browser. What I'm trying to arrive to here is what is the safest way to store wealth in BSV right now?
I don't suggest anyone store their wealth in BSV. I suggest they store their wealth in company shares. Start a company that you own. That's where wealth is. Your wealth is in your family and the things you do with your life, not hoarding some electronic beans.
Mm-hmm.
I will just say, sell your BSV. Unless it's on something like BSV Browser where you're using it to do stuff, sell your BSV.
Yeah. So
that's not what it's for. It's for using.
But I mean, you could use money that's stored in BSV, right?
I mean, you could take out a loan against it, maybe. Sure. And then do something useful. But no, I don't advocate for people just hoarding BSV.
Well, no,
I guess what they're trying to do is maybe make a bet on the technology as a whole. It's kind of like an ETF for the entire blockchain. So it doesn't matter which company makes money, you're kind of making money with the ecosystem. Yeah, I can't in good conscience say, yeah, like whole lots of BSV. I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah, I'm glad that people are interested in the technology and it can do awesome things. I implore you to try and build businesses based on those awesome things, because practically no one is, and there's a massive information asymmetry out there. Because if you can figure out how to use this stuff, you can apply it in a bunch of different businesses. And there's like 5 things you can do with BSV probably. But there's lots of businesses that need those 5 things. So you just need to go out and really develop a sales team that's capable of speaking to people with problems, and then apply these 5 problems to lots of different people, and you can make money.
Yeah, I think people they're not even trying to figure out the problems that exist for other people and how they could service them. People just complain about what the problems that BSV is doing wrong as if it's an entity to make it rich. But like, what area do you have awareness of that there's problems and pain points for people? And like, I'm not going to go and create a solution really for farmers, because I don't know anything about that industry. I know at the moment I'm working in construction, handyman's trades and stuff. So there's a whole lot of problems that I'm experiencing with the real estate agents who give me jobs, the advertising platforms for getting it, and I'm thinking, like, I could create interoperability between these and this and this and do this. And so that's a problem that I'm aware of, that I see the technology being able to offer a solution, and you go, cool, if you do this, you can offer something way cheaper than the current platforms. You can give them a level of like federation that doesn't exist between different sort of instances on a SaaS platform, and it can totally bring a whole lot more efficiency into that that coordination challenge of multiple different holders and blah blah blah.
And
so
look, there's one thing I want to point out about this is, like, a lot of people say, oh, those businesses exist already, like Western Union or something, like MoneyGram or things like that. So remittance is solved, but their margins are massive, right? And yes, I'll admit that the thing that's expensive is the people and bricks and mortar and the cash stuff at either end. It's not really the rails that are expensive, and to some degree that's true. But the point is that neither is BSV, and so you can have an equivalent business that runs on BSV in the background that is adjacent to some of these existing businesses. But what that does, in my mind at least, what that does is get us closer to the goal of actually everyone can just use BSV natively, which gets rid of all of the cash problems in and of themselves. But if you're not there in that industry serving this need to then convert to this alternative, then you're not really on the playing field at all. So these businesses that solve obvious problems with BSV in the back end, I think are a good way to bridge to the future that perhaps all of us can imagine. But there are not enough businesses out there that are already implementing it to convert, if that makes sense.
And in like the ideas that I have, no one would know they're using BSV. But the thing is that what makes it better for, say, a property manager is it ships with like all this compliance and auditability that cost me a few cents a year to timestamp all the records. But now it's like one-click audit, and it can also, you have a set of trusted records that you can pass to another counterparty that they don't have to trust them anymore. And so it's not that I'm saying, hey, accept BSV at the real estate agents. I'm saying here's a platform that does things that other ones that you've got can't do. I can make certain guarantees way more concrete than they are under existing platforms, and I reckon I can do that for half the price of the other one because I get a lot of efficiency in it, and the other ones are just grifting, really. So come through, be ultra competitive, and then clean up if you run a good business. But a lot of people are thinking like, well, this is a bit of a hot potato, but something like, say, ElectrumSV.
Yeah, let's get into it.
There's been a bit of heat on that because it's saying, people, the officials or the high ups don't recommend ElectrumSV, which is the best wallet for storing your wealth in BSV in cold storage. And so they're only thinking in this payments and having a whole lot of the stuff and storing that. But I can't wire up a distributed application to ElectrumSV.
Right.
So
yeah, actually, wow. Through this conversation, you've made it so clear to me. It's like, that's why I made that decision, because the purpose for which people were using ElectrumSV is like antithetical to the way that BSV should be used. And I mean, who am I to say that? I guess use it in whatever way you want, but like it.
Well, what is it? What is just clarify what you're saying there? What is the way that people were using ElectrumSV that is
what Todd just said, as in just hoarding Bitcoin, as in it's the best place to keep your Bitcoin and sit and do nothing with it. It's like, well, great. Sorry, you got the use case wrong. That's not what it's actually for.
Hold on, you guys, hold on. This use case, how can you say that I'm not saying that hoarding and doing nothing is the plan, but the damn white paper says electronic peer-to-peer cash system. So I think the biggest and most wide appealing use case of Bitcoin is payments. It's a payment system, so payments, and as part of a payment system, if it is kind of like let's just say if it's used as cash as a medium of exchange, part of that cycle of cash flow would be someplace to store. So like you know what I'm saying? Like
I mean, think about it this way. If you imagine the person who has stacks of cash under their mattress, is it a wealthy businessman?
Right.
No.
I mean, but also businesses, wealthy businesses, 8-figure, 7 to 9-figure businesses have a bunch of wealth stored in a bank account.
What they have is
not really.
We'll say cash. We'll say cash.
Cash at bank. Yeah. Not necessarily. I mean, they should be putting that capital to work. Usually, if there's a reason they need some sort of large cash at bank, then fair enough. But for the most part, their value is in their capital, as in their factories, machines, cars, whatever it happens to be.
But there's stock. That's true. That's stored value. But there's cash flow too, though, right? So there's got to be some place where
it's going to be some cash flow.
It's liquid, and usually that's in some sort of either bank account, money market account, or perhaps there's some sort of other vehicle where it's less liquid, but you can take a loan instantly to get access to the liquidity of some sort of financial instrument. So what I'm saying is that like the function of storage of value, I'll just say storage of value is important in the use case of a payments system. And like if we were to say that Bitcoin is not meant to be used as a payment system, I'm very confused at this point.
It should be used as a payment system, 100%. I am saying that. if you're looking for a store of value, you need to store the value in the asset your contracts are denominated in. So if you owe someone BSV, then BSV is a store of value.
Right, because you can denominate, like for example, here in Argentina, you're free to denominate your rental contracts, your private contracts in any denomination, including crypto, Bitcoin, anything.
Right.
You're free to do so. So
if I ask for my salary, I'm not allowed to do this, by the way, interestingly. They are working on it, apparently. If I ask for my salary to be paid in BSV, then the BSVA would have a debt of some sort that they owe me in BSV. And for them, BSV becomes a store of value. So they need to keep some BSV to be able to pay their contracts at the end of the year or
they
month or whatever.
I mean, yeah, they need to keep some.
But if they kept something else and then suddenly the prices change, then they'd be screwed, right?
I get you. Yeah.
And when you were talking, Neil, you're saying like payments and storing value in businesses, but the thing is small casual payments, and where it does it represents it for everything that can't be currently done by the existing tech networks to process small casual payments. So you really only need as much in there for payments that you're going to be spending in these use cases which weren't previously accessible to you through a cash-based system, because you had to settle for batching or like an account-based system where really things were more granularly tokenized of your consumption and usage. So what
is your definition of small casual payments?
Well, how much can't you send with a credit card before it becomes uneconomical?
So you're talking dollars essentially, right? Or maybe even you're talking cents, but yeah, like here's a massive use case. Everyone has huge, like a pain in the ass to deal with Stripe as a business owner, or probably some other equivalents to Stripe. There's also, like, I'm in a bunch of different marketing circles and Facebook groups and whatnot, and like it's such a common pain point to these businesses. They get shut down, their accounts are frozen, and for whatever the reason, or sometimes there is no reason, but they have no recourse, and there could be $50,000 that's waiting to come and hit that bank, but now their bank account, but now for whatever reason their account got shut down. So like you say that the small casual payments is the main use case of Bitcoin, but even in the normal, if we were to compete with Visa and MasterCard, there's always comparisons to Bitcoin to Visa and MasterCard. So why can't that be directly the use case, is replacing Visa and MasterCard? Because even if we were to compete with them, we have, what's it called? Like, you can send a payment, there's no risk of, so chargebacks. So as a business owner, you eliminate that risk. And then secondly, the money, so the cash flow is instant for a small business. So, and then also thirdly, if you're saying it's decentralized and there's nobody controlling and nobody freezing accounts, then nobody can shut your business down for doing this. So there's all sorts of benefits and advantages that Bitcoin has if we were to go head and head against Stripe and Visa and MasterCard.
They'll kill us, I think, is what will happen. But yeah, I agree. That is.
Hey, we're here for war, right? We're here to fight for.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah.
So you don't get running in front of the dragon and be like, yo, you go around.
That's right. You stab it in the heart, right, or cut its nuts off, or whatever.
Or you let it fly out, and you go and mug its treasure while it's out, like flying around or something like that.
Oh yes, maybe that's the way. So my thinking on, like, realistically, how do we get there is probably by providing the best stablecoin platform, playing their game, in other words, because stablecoins, of course, the New York governor gives you a shout, you have to freeze everything. You have to pause the system.
With stablecoins. It's permission is what you're saying.
Right. Basically, you build a platform that gives the government the controls they will allow based on the Clarity Act, right? Sure. Which in New York, at least, is you have to be able to pause the entire system. Of course. At the drop of a hat. And sanctioned people are not allowed to receive payments and so on and so forth. So we can build all those tools. We have those tools. We'll open source them. People can build their stablecoin platforms. That will be such a great experience in terms of it'll be fast. You can do offline payments. You can do it anywhere in the world. You know, the Nigerians are going to love it because it's going to be cheaper than USDT transfers and so on. And, you know, I think there's about $35 billion per year transferred in stablecoins. Is that correct? Yeah, something like that, of the last year. So like it's a big market. So I wouldn't even advise taking a large fee chunk out of that. You could probably survive just on the miners fees if that really is a large volume. And I feel like that's the Trojan horse, because you're providing everything, and then everyone's like, well, what does that run on? It's like, oh, it runs on this native token, which you can use. That could, you know, be used as electronic cash even more simply. And then you take the power away from the central banks and so on.
And that was what I was going to say before, Anil, with your example of like the Stripe and that. You're not competing with processing the value transfer in BSV. You're using the BSV to give a timestamp, so you can say this value that was here is now allocated to this entity here, and it's an irreversibility on that transfer. And so the reconciliation of the transfers of the value which are in a USD or in an AUD.
It's a global settlement network that is faster.
Coin transaction and using that sort of one-wayness of the state transfers. But it's not $10,000 went as BSV to pay for my conference attendance or something like that. So
you're saying that you're saying that, okay, so let me see if I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that fiat should be transferred using BSV, essentially a stablecoin? Is that basically what
I think eventually it will be you just transfer BSV because there's an overhead in the bytes to transfer a stablecoin transaction. But I'm talking in 50 years or 100 years.
Sure. And my plan, by the way, is to accelerate that future into like 5 years. But
right.
When I was making the essentially the complaint or validate, like saying why ElectrumSV doesn't work, is because if I now have an application and I want to timestamp or something, or digitally give a digital signature on an arbitrary message, and I pass that request to ElectrumSV, it can't do anything with that. It's just sitting there, and I would need to find a way to like export the raw bytes of a signed message, or pass the message in there and build the whole pre-image to ElectrumSV, because there's no interface for it to interface with any applications. So it works for a payment to send it to an address of someone else you have the address for, but it has no inbuilt
BSV.
It has no inbuilt mechanism to transfer tokens, to handle a push drop stuff, to do it the payloads on a UTXO that's unspent. None of that sort of stuff ships with it.
By the way, it could now, because we had a team in Japan build the Python equivalent of all those SDKs.
Okay,
so
amazing.
It could integrate it, and it could evolve in that direction. Maybe. I don't have the budget to spend on multiple wallets anymore. That's long gone. Those days are gone. But
just saying like that, to me, the future is in like the BSV browser, the desktop. And so I guess what I want to talk to about is how do you imagine, so someone builds, at the moment, some of the apps that you can access on there is, Mars weather or whatever. Like there's sort of these little gimmicky prototypes that show something. But are you imagining on my phone in a BSV starts doing kicking some goals, and we've now got some significant apps on there. Do I have less apps on my phone and I'm just doing everything through the BSV browser, or is the BSV browser acting as like a headless wallet? Because is it going to be the runtime for the application that sits in there? Yeah,
it's a great question. So we're limited by what the OS will give up to us in terms of controls and powers. So the reason BSV Browser is a browser is because inter-process calls are not allowed between developer groups. So you can have inter-process calls, as in one application does something with another application on your phone, as long as the same developer made both applications and ties them together with some let's just say ties them together.
Yes, stuff in the back end.
So if you come up with a business idea that requires a wallet, you have to ship the wallet and the app in one thing, or at least in two things that you both run. So what BSV Browser is doing is saying, right, if you want a business, just build a web app and browse to it from the BSV Browser. And that way you don't need to have your own wallet, and you don't have to ask someone to download an application onto their phone anymore. It's just, that's the browser they have to use for interacting with any of these BRC100 apps. So yeah, we were limited, and this is like not just us, right? It's all crypto stuff, all Web3 stuff. That's the model they've been using for a number of years. It's like a Web3 browser where the wallet is embedded into the app, and it has a browser, and it can inject something into the browser that allows it to communicate between the web app and the native wallet, which is on the phone. So
but that was generally like an extension, weren't they, rather than the browser itself? Or was, I guess, Brave was the first browser that sort of was
Brave did it.
Yeah. With BAT, or basic attention token or something, was supposed to be in there. And
exactly. And now Hodos Browser is the BSV equivalent. Hodos Browser by Archie. So there's a browser that has been shipped with a BRC100 wallet in it. It's in early beta.
Mobile browser?
It's a desktop browser.
Okay.
And then BSV Browser is the mobile equivalent, as the same rough thing. And obviously there are competing implementations now. I believe the guys from MetaWatt, Mitch and Ishan are developing Paragon. I don't know if that's public yet, but
I've heard the name, so it must be rumors around. Yeah.
Rumors have been, it's just a rumor I heard. But since they're here, maybe I got an early name drop. So it's going to be awesome, I think. They do great work.
The rumor is that that's a browser.
No idea what it is, actually. Just keep your eyes peeled. But so the general approach, the reason the reason it's a browser is because it frees up the business-focused people just build a web app. They can vibe code a web app in a day, and it will just work with the existing wallets. No, just literally just a regular website is what I mean by that. It's like an app that is a website. That's all they need. All they need to do is drop in a tiny bit of code that says wallet client, and that is what communicates with BSV Browser, BSV Desktop, Metanet Explorer, Paragon, Hodos Browser, soon Handcash, soon Twetch. Whoa! I don't know why my camera does that sometimes. Soon Twetch. So Handcash have just dropped on. Sorry, I can't remember what the hand gesture I make to zoom this out is. So we'll just be close from here on. Listen to me, kids. I think it's this. That's it.
So you're saying if you have a software application, in order to tie it to the BSV browser, which basically is acting like a wallet, right? We just need a snippet of code to what? Do we put it in like the where exactly would we put this snippet of code exactly? Is it like in order to connect it to the BSV browser with this software app?
Yeah, so I mean, a good place to get started is fast.brc.dev. Okay. And all that gives you is the sort of quick start that you quick start sort of code snippets that you can do. So it's just literally new wallet client from your app. So if you're just vibe coding an app, just tell it to use fast.brc.dev. There's an LLM training guide on that page. You can just give it, and that's all you need. So it's like literally one line of code, and it will connect to any available wallet, which could be yours wallet, Twetch, Handcash in the future, BSV Browser, BSV Desktop, Metanet Explorer, Hodos Browser, Paragon, etc. I realize this is very distracting. So solve this.
Maybe you can, with the 3 dots, if you hit auto framing, I think that will...
it's not the software, it's the hardware, unfortunately. I see that.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure. Just give me a second. Are we live?
It's all good. No, it's all fine. Just check with your AI or
it's the Ozbot meets to stream camera. If anyone knows it, might just be overheating or something. No, it does this randomly in meetings because I gesticulate and then it reads that as like you should zoom in, I guess.
Yeah.
Zoom out. Zoom out. So
the opposite. Yeah.
Can I leave?
You're right. You got it right. You got it right. Yeah.
You're right. so infuriating. Okay, let me open the software because this is going to be too distracting for everyone, I'm sure.
That's all good.
Can we still talk? Would you want to do a chop?
Yeah.
it?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Maybe you want to chop this out, but
Whatever. But
Sure. We could.
are you suggesting then?
it's humanizing, isn't it? I'm not just a mindless robot.
Yeah. So we're building just web apps, and that's going to be an adequate experience for everyone to be able to, essentially, is that reducing everyone's sort of things they're going to have to go into to run a different app or to jump on that? Oh, you got it. Like the browser will be the runtime for gaming. The browser will be the runtime for doing your zero, all this sort of stuff. Are we going to be moving away from apps as a sort of self-contained unit on the phone, do you think, and the browser will just be the runtime for?
I mean, this is an argument that Google's been making forever, right? So Google have been pushing the progressive web app and basically just make everything a browser because they own the browser space in some sense. So they're very pro browser. And Apple is like, no. App Store. Everything's a native app. That's been a battle for, I don't know, however long it's been, 15 to 20 years or something. No, I don't think it's that simple. It's just that we've got to be realistic and not ask people to use a totally new phone, which, Siggy and I have actually been looking into, privacy-focused hardware and like shipping a BSV phone kind of thing. I don't think most people will do that. Most people want to use their iPhone or their Android, whatever.
Maybe all the BSVers would love that, but I remember this topic.
Yeah.
A Bitcoin phone. A year ago, and I literally made a mock-up of it. And,
nice.
On X.
Oh, that was you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I would easily pay $1,000 to have
I think it's about $1,000 for the Liberty phone we were looking at. So,
and a lot of people shared that. They're like, get that going. And what's his name? Ty from Babbage said that I think he was already got like a bunch of services and stuff that he was interested in the same idea, right? Like,
yes, he bought a bunch of super cheap phones that I think he was going to give out.
So I think that would be something super marketable. By the way, that would be just like super marketable. That could attract, like, everyone understands the phone and understanding, like, okay, what, you got a Bitcoin phone? What's a Bitcoin phone, right? Like,
it's pretty cool, right?
What I'm saying, like, you guys, I don't know, like, get some sort of like community funded.
Well, you're so confident. Why don't you get money together from investors who think that this is a good idea? You already have an audience here, the BSV community. They're all your buyers. Get all signed affidavits saying, I will buy this phone from you.
What does a Bitcoin phone do, Deggen?
A Bitcoin phone would have keys on the secure enclave that use the K1 curve, which is the curve of the Bitcoin cryptography, let's just say, so that you could sign natively on the hardware device. It would also need some interesting functionality to be compatible with the BRC100 world. We've actually been speaking to an HSM company in Switzerland to make this stuff happen, so it's definitely doable. It would be more like having, I don't know what type of phone you have, but it would be much lower level integrated to the OS, micropayments. You could download any app and app developers could start building micropayments in, rather than us taking 30% of all of your revenue like Apple do. We would take a far lower percentage, or maybe none whatsoever, because it's an open source project, and just let people transact using this technology. And
what about can it act as because that's like it with an embedded wallet for
keys, I guess, embedded keys,
for interacting with applications, but what about in the way that it interacts with the cellular network or with the radio waves going to other Bitcoin phones? What sort of capabilities are there for it to function as a node in a peer-to-peer mesh of bandwidth and cellular network and communicate?
Yeah, oh, gosh, man, that completely changes how you could do this stuff. You know, you would then be looking at, well, how do we get keys into routers so that we can start paying for packets and that sort of granularity, paying for connectivity, paying for routing on the micropayment level rather than a monthly contract, I should emphasize.
Yeah, and if it's elastic as well, so you're in a bit of a black hole, but someone nearby has, they've invested in their own mast, and you make a request to them, and then they send, a cone beam straight at you, or do the phase conjugation so they can throw the beam straight at you, give you a priority.
Dude, why not?
Regulate the bandwidth and give you a direct, highway.
That's kind of ham radio, though. I see it more as, why don't we get a modem in this Bitcoin phone that actually communicates with V3 Starlinks? And so we're actually just going to the Starlink network, and we can just use that, go phone to phone IPv6 over Starlink. Oh, that would be cool.
Let's do it. Oh my God, my mind is exploding right now. So
I can't get any harder.
So hold on. And then so you're saying this phone could, so basically it would almost be like its own POS system in a way too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Phones are POS systems. The only people who want you to not think that are Visa and MasterCard.
Well, damn, you got my business plan of basically bringing back the whole BitPay thing, and then you guys are already working on this whole Bitcoin phone. God, we got to do this right now.
And, I mean, with the demo earlier, you can do that now, dude. That's a point of sale system for sure. You remember hand cash pop or whatever it was called?
I don't know.
We're bringing it back. Early hand cash days, they were doing hand cash pop, which is a point of sale terminal that doesn't use Visa or MasterCard.
That was tap. They only really showed a demo or a screen recording of it or something, didn't they? Or did they actually have it out as code you could implement?
I don't know the details. I just remember that hand cash pop was a thing briefly.
I remember seeing a video recording of them saying, in our early days, we did, tap to pay with hand.
Yeah, no, they really did. I remember those early days because I was in London. They were in London. I hosted the Bitcoin meetups in London, right? So they were there, and I think it was maybe a couple of times prior to the ones that I started running. So it was in the Bitcoin Cash days. Yeah, they were working on Cash Pop, and I think maybe after the split they stopped for some reason. Because remember, Bitcoin Cash was very point of sale oriented at the time in 2017. Anyway, we should bring that back. Absolutely, I will support you. Whatever technical, I mean, Todd can help you on that as well, obviously. But if there's anything that Todd doesn't know, I can help as well.
Todd,
there's not a lot that Todd doesn't know, but it's possible.
I swear to God, I will round up the troops if whatever it takes to I think this is such a wicked use of the technology, and it's something that can be very, very marketable, and I think it can easily obviously make onboarding super, super simple. People understand. My God, this solves a lot of problems. This solves a lot of problems all at once.
There's some use cases where you wouldn't need all the legal stuff. I'm just thinking, we have a golf course in our area, like some people do, and that golf course runs an annual event, and they don't accept cash for food there or drinks because they check your ID when you're buying tickets, and it's just raffle tickets, and you swap that for your cash, and they use those tickets to buy drinks, and they know you're already sort of ID'd in, kind of thing. In the same way, you could do that in an electronic way, where you could have this internal economy for your local community or farmers market or something like that. And that would be a great way to test out this concept. It's hey, want to not pay Visa, MasterCard 2% of everything this farmers market sells? Why don't we just all use this local community coin for a second?
Do you know that where I live, every Sunday, every single week, every Sunday, I don't know for how many streets, but it's literally a farmer's market for like,
Awesome.
and it's probably about maybe like across actually, but it's a long, like, I don't even know, maybe 10 block, no more than that, probably like,
Oh gosh, right,
15-ish
massive.
blocks. Just a massive every Sunday. And that's just in my area. This happens like all around Buenos Aires, all these farmer markets and like
Heck
local
yeah.
trading and you know, they're also, if you want a copper, handmade copper, whatever, like you got a guy that has the copper, he'll make that thing for
I
you.
love
like,
that.
for like literally $15 or whatever the case is, like and they sell all sorts of stuff, and all of them, if they're not going to get the cash, they have the POS system, right? And obviously that's less than desirable for these merchants. And a lot of these people are actually, we'll call them like gypsies, basically. Like they literally live off of their sales on the weekly basis. And like, wow, like it's what a perfect opportunity for me physically if I can get a hold of these things. And like the only problem is that I don't know if they could like if it almost be like I would have to do like because like to ask them to spend like $1,000 to I don't know, it would almost be like the business model would be sort of like a finance program to make it so much more affordable for them. So like it's a rent to own or a finance buyout early type of thing, so that they can maybe pick it up for like $100 to start, and then $40-50 a month, and then over time they can own the device, and then that would be a lot more palatable. I think
when you're doing stuff with the keys, and if it's interacting with the network on the keys, you can have in a way like the payment plan is some kind of contract where you brick the phone if they don't pay so you're sort of using the risk of them being able to pay the $100 and then take the phone and sell it somewhere else. You've got keys, it doesn't boot unless the keys are there, and while it's on the payment plan, you're one of those keys that it's.
Sorry, are you talking about a point of sale system, like a physical device?
Well, the Bitcoin phone, you said it was.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to cut in and say, like, hold on a minute. You don't need to give them a point of sale system. You just tell them to download the app.
The existing phone can already act as a POS. Like if it has tap to pay, or what is that? Near field Bluetooth, or when you were showing that tap to pay functionality?
So it's I believe it's Bluetooth and Wi-Fi combined, because both of them are proprietary for their particular platform, and animated QR code for the radio soft mode.
A handshake or a round trip request or something saying, hey, like open a port to listen to this, and then it sort of says like,
it's really interesting. It opens an encrypted Wi-Fi communication channel, but it can also do the same type of channel over low energy Bluetooth connection. So the device itself, depending on proximity and connectivity, chooses which of those options based on like whatever it detects radio waves wise.
So what was the idea behind actually using a new type of physical device? Or I don't know if you said it was a new type of physical device, or if it was just a Apple phone and an Android phone. What was the idea behind that Bitcoin phone? That's I guess you're saying that this all doesn't, you don't even have to have the phone.
Yeah, for the point of sale, I stand by that. Yeah, like the current apps, BSV Browser, we could modify it so they're specifically to be used as a point of sale that's like more oriented towards that specifically. But yeah, the technical capability is there today. You can use it as a point of sale system for sure. Because of the nearby payments. And the reason we developed nearby payments was actually for the stablecoin use case. So the stablecoin companies looking for this solution, and specifically it needs to be able to do offline transfers. You can only do that with nearby payments.
Like, basically, you would have to have the buyer also have the BSV browser, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it would have to be
and they would also have to have
a coordinated effort. It's not like you could. Exactly.
Yeah. So I feel like that could be a super that would be the reason for the phone. Because what if you, as part of your purchase, it's already loaded with BSV?
Yes,
Right. And yeah,
that's a good point, actually. Yeah,
I
you could
always
buy it
think,
loaded.
yeah, I always think that that's the easiest way to onboard somebody is like, let's say you're selling something, even if it's an info product, right? And you want to onboard them to teach them about, this is ideas that I was thinking of. It's like, as part of the purchase, give them cash back, give them BSV as cash back, and
Yes.
now you've onboarded them. And so that's just part of your margins. You have to calculate cost of goods sold type of thing. And
Right.
you've just onboarded them by giving it to them. That's the easiest way to onboard
Sure.
everybody. The only question is now, how do they kind of like increase their, you know, I guess not necessarily a big problem, but how does that economy increase for the average user? And you'd have to have more. This is why I was having a conversation with Bridget the other day about like wanting to basically bring back the whole BitPay idea, but on BSV.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like it really requires a local initiative and a local community to set up this circular economy of like Bitcoin enthusiasts that want to sort of see this.
right. People would take pilgrimage to whatever cafe was accepting Bitcoin back in the day, right?
Yeah. So
something that I was talking to another guy about was because with BitPay, the way that it would work is it had liquidity that it could accept the Bitcoin and then still pay the person in the fiat, and then it would have an account on an exchange or whatever where it would liquidate, and the difference in fees, say it took 1.2%, it assumed it's got enough volume on an exchange that it can sell that amount for under that 1.2% fee, and it takes the difference between there and the exchange spread. So if, because a cash note, like a bill here has the serial numbers on it, and this is supposed to be a one of a kind with the serial number that's on here wherever it is, down the bottom, or where the heck is it on these guys? Probably some secure thing.
It's a fake.
Yeah, it's a fake. Probably is a fake. There's a lot of them getting around. But if you deposit this into a bank account, you don't rely on the CBDC to mint that. You mint the NFT for the $50 now. And that bank account says, we've got that $50 note with that serial number in our account. And it can even settle that back to the Reserve Bank or however it wants to bank with other banks and say, here's all the serial numbers. We've issued this much thing against it. So that becomes the Aussie dollar liquidity. And now, because you've got that Aussie dollar liquidity, you can pay out of that to a merchant that wants to accept BSV, but be settled in not having that sort of volatility risk or having to store value in the BSV. So that's what those companies are, like BitPay, and that they have both sides liquidity pools that allow
market
you to
makers essentially
buy at a price, and their fees are going to be at a margin above the cost that they can dispose of it at. If you sit on both sides, then you don't have to sell it. And if you have technical analysis and stuff sitting there going, it looks like it's going to go up, you might go long on the BSV you just accepted and not liquidate it instantly. And so you get a gain on top of that. So that's what's required. It's not so much like a circular economy. It's just having liquidity on both sides of the trade to be able to let people instantly settle in, like paying one and then consider, and the other party considers themselves paid in the other because you took the risk in between.
Yes.
You're saying
you also do things like loyalty points. So if you are at this farmer's market and you just have regular cash, local cash, you can pay with that. And the merchant, if they later want to accept payments in BSV, say for religious purposes, let's say, then rather than giving you a little stamp on a loyalty card, they could literally just give the customer BSV, whatever, couple of bucks of BSV, and say, well, yeah, it's money. You don't have to spend it here. We'd like you to come back. And fine well that they can't spend it anywhere else because you're the first merchant on the block to accept it. But then it can start to snowball.
Okay, I like that idea a lot.
The other way around, the loyalty stamp is a token on BSV. So you're not even using BSV, but they can come and redeem $10 worth of loyalty stamps at yours that they can't spend anywhere else.
That's true. You can do that.
Starting to go like, oh, cool, we're timestamping these
But they could be loyalty stamps to the farmers market in general, and then you could team up with a bunch of them. And
Oh, there you go. I like that. I like that idea a lot. So just going back to what you were saying, Todd, about the liquidity providing liquidity on both sides. Are you saying that? Well, the comment you made about this whole like circular economy, I just wanted to understand that a little bit more. Are you saying that the BitPay solution business model requires to be like a market maker, essentially? That's what's required?
Unless you want to have, like a bank account or a crowdsourced tether, like that's somehow there's the platform that's creating the circularity is, receiving deposits and doing glass books on the deposits and minting the assets in real time that are now usable as a stablecoin kind of thing, but they're not really issued by anyone. They're sort of just representative of the deposits that have been made. Maybe you go and buy the T-bills straight away. I just don't think that it is an example of circular economy. It's more an example of, a gateway or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just different than an exchange. It's less friction than an exchange. That you got to do order books, buy and sell. If I sell my BSV on BTC markets, I've got to place a sell order or like market sell into the price. And if there's 3 coins
pretty
on
fuzzy, isn't it? I'm sure the Aussie dollar was probably a circular economy at first.
And then if I go on CoinSpot, I can just buy, as much liquidity as they've got of BSV at the spot price. So for $22 a coin, I'll just go and buy 100 BSV. But if I went on BTC and then BTC markets and tried to sell $100 worth of coins, there'd probably be two people buying it at $22, one person buying it at 17. Someone with a buy order of 2,000 of them down at $5, waiting for
right.
Harry's prophecy to come true.
Be fulfilled. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's the challenge, the chicken and the egg problem, really, is that getting them onboarded. And that's when you're trying to disrupt incumbent transfers in fiat. If you're looking to solve problems where people can't actually create a payment for a price below a value, $1 or something, or 10 cents, that's where it's just a green field. So
yeah. I see the thing, the BitPay idea is so much more like people understand that, whereas like I've never had that problem of trying to solve what you just described of like making a payment of 10 cents. I've never personally, so I don't even know what I would.
You've had 10 cents worth of value extracted out of you by doing an engagement on a platform, or
I just don't even. It just seems like it's not even worth trying to solve. You see what I'm saying? Like the trying to, I don't know, worry about a sub-cent, especially if we're talking sub-cent type of things, or
what about this, Deggen? Can the BSV browser ship with an ad block that is X402 gated?
An ad block that is X402 gated.
Like,
I don't see why not. Yeah. So I'll put it this way: shipped in it already is 402 payments based on literally if you send it a 402 response from a server, it will automatically pay if it's below the threshold that you configure, or prompt you to if you want to pay for the payment. Maybe I can show you that before I go for the evening.
So that's what I was. You said I've never encountered a thing where I've got to pay 10 cents, but so often you're encountered this thing where you're being sold an ad by it jamming into your attention. And if you could eliminate the experience of ads, but still let things get through if the person wanted to pay you a fraction of a cent because you were legitimately in their target audience. So can the BSV browser block ads? Does it, or do you need an ad blocking extension on the browser to
it doesn't block ads at the moment. You would need I mean, there is no extension framework at the moment, so you couldn't even extend on the mobile app, at least at the moment. Let me see, can I do this? I'm hoping that I can just go here and show you now.bsv blockchain.tech. So this is like a fake publication that I made with like comical articles here, which tell you that payment is required before you can even view the content.
Yeah.
So I have enough funds, and I'm now realizing that there's a bug here, and we're going to have to wait 15 seconds. But the content is basically paid for by a micropayment that goes to the server. This is a terrible demo. I can't believe I pulled my phone out for this.
Well, what is it? Is it a fraction of a cent, or how much is it? I'm just curious.
Yes, it's so I have my threshold set to, it's less than a cent. Otherwise, it would have prompted me.
Okay.
So it's like a thousandth of a cent or something ridiculously low like that. But I mean, you can charge whatever you want.
So that is you know how there's like membership sites, Todd. School is an example. Like you know, it's a paywall, and then there's content behind the paywall.
Yeah. New York Times, for example.
Sure, and there's that. Yeah. I could see that. I know you're gonna run, so I don't want to go into more depth here, but overall, I just love the conversation. I feel like it was super helpful to get into this, and definitely we need to explore more of the concept that you were talking about with the Bitcoin phone and all that sort of stuff with Siggy you guys were talking about earlier. So
I think
exciting times ahead. Yeah.
And you'll be surprised at to what the BSV browser itself can actually give you of the Bitcoin phone, and you might find you don't even need a product, because simply just showing people that thing and vibe coding something that makes a request to the browser and going, it's pretty slick. That like, well done on that. Thank
you.
Yeah.
It's come a long way. It was pretty disgusting when we first started.
yeah.
And I know there's a desktop version, right? So
there is, and it is still disgusting. Actually,
I just wanted to ask.
It's built for developers. It looks like it's been built for developers. It's cobbled together because there's lots of competing ideas, and it's our testing ground. So it's a little bit more convoluted to use. I would just use yours or soon Handcash or something like that on your desktop, honestly. The cool thing is you can actually use, with a small change to some applications, you can use BSV Browser on your phone as the wallet that your desktop browser connects to. So you can do this thing called Wallet Relay, where you just scan a QR code on the website, and then you can sign and pay for shit on your phone to the website you're viewing on your laptop.
It's pretty nice. So it's kind of like an OTP, but it's not. It's like an authenticator.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that
connects with a socket.
Browser? Is that with a regular browser, or you would need the desktop?
Regular browser. Just a regular browser. Yep.
Okay. Wicked.
Regular browser. The difference is the application you're using has to have it installed, which is like not the standard wallet client. It's the wallet client plus a relay. So they have to use a socket server. It's actually more secure though. So it's worth doing if you're an app developer in BSV. Look at Wallet Relay.
Wicked. So much gold here.
All right. Well, you got to go. So we'll let you be.
I got to sleep. We've got young kids. So
Last parting words for the audience. What's any final closing thoughts that you have?
We have very fertile soil. So I would come build on BSV now. There's opportunity for businesses to implement micropayments, timestamping, and data integrity, and stablecoins, tokens. The world is your oyster, and basically BSV will just get out of your way, and you can build with this millions of dollars worth of software and technology that has been worked on for the last 4 or 6 years. That is the most scalable blockchain tech. So join us.
The best kept secret in crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could also phrase it as the worst PR in crypto.
It's a little from
But-
column A, a little from column B, you know.
Yeah,
Your
but
business,
damn, does it work, man? It's fantastic.
yeah, you'll only fail because your business sucks, not because of the technology, which is the opposite
We
of
can't
everything.
guarantee your ideas are good, but
Yeah.
the stuff under it won't break.
Nice.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, Deggen. It's been great. And for all our listeners, I meant to do the plug at the beginning, but if you've enjoyed the content and you want to hear more of it, please like and subscribe. If you want to recommend anyone else that we could scrutinize and interrogate their claims, drop a name in the comments, and we'll put them in the hot seat.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thanks, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.